Hello everyone, welcome to the Uncensored Match Build-Up. Sorry for being late, we've got three of us here now to have a 15-minute session talking about the guys who are leaving the club today. I'm joined by Errol. How are we, Errol?
Not too bad, mate. Yeah. I feel like it's going to be a bit of an emotional day, so strap yourselves in, Reds all around the world, because there probably won't be a dry eye in the studio. R5 building, really.
And we're joined over at the board by a very emotional Dan Club, who, like me, is absolutely taking Bobby Firmino to his heart. Difficult day, Dan?
Yeah, difficult day. I mean, it should be a celebration, really, of, you know, at least two Liverpool modern day legends, two more lads who've played their part. But yeah, for Bobby, man, I'm gutted. I am gutted, and I am going to be emotional later on. The C Senor stuff around the ground, the lap of honour, all that stuff. Bobby's the man. Bobby's been the man. He's defined this era for me under Jurgen Klopp. So difficult one, but listen, we'll get through. And like I say, hopefully it's Bobby. He loves celebrating. Hopefully we can all celebrate with him.
That's what he would want. He would want us to celebrate his career. So there's four leaving today. Well, technically leaving. It's their last game at Anfield. Mm-hmm. So we'll start kind of in reverse order. And we'll talk about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain first, Errol. Came to the club from Arsenal. Wasn't cheap. Lots of promise. Had a really great start to his career, being fundamental in Champions League runs. City away is the one that springs to mind, isn't it? Yeah. From my personal point of view with Oxlade-Chamberlain, I have some sympathy with him because up until that knee injury, which is 5.5 years ago now, doesn't time fly? He was flying, and then that curtailed his career completely for me.
Right. And it's mad when you see that, because we've seen the likes of Virgil van Dijk and the injury that he's had, and obviously we all kind of gasp because you think, fucking hell, like, we've seen how career defining those type of injuries have been in the past, and you don't wish that for any football player, and the Ox was definitely in that camp. And I completely appreciate the sympathy that you've got for him. I think he's been unlucky, we've been unlucky, really, in the same sense that there have been times when you'd probably look at the Ox and think, because the squad's evolved, you're probably not going to get back to the level where he was previously at to be able to really make a claim for a starting position. Would it be better to have a swan song and have went somewhere else? And there's just been, again, other niggling injuries that have prevented him from being able to probably get more regular football elsewhere. And obviously he had to wind down the clock on his contract, but I think Klopp showed a lot of faith in him and wanted to keep him around the club for what he did, and obviously being a kind of like a catalyst in that first iteration of the squad to really springboard us up to the success. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, people level up about being too loyal, but I think that was a very good decision by him to keep those personalities, keep the lads that he trusted, because he knew that he had they were the lads that had, you know, the four lads, you know, we'll speak more in depth about all of them, but the four lads there would have ran through brick walls at certain points in time for Klopp, and I think that's what he's always valued in a footballer.
100%, and loyalty is a big thing for Klopp. You're quite right. So Dan, we spoke about Ox before we went live. Mm-hmm. There's times he's been out with the squad when you and I both wanted him to turn up, put in a performance, show us and the club and his manager what he's about, and we particularly referenced the FA Cup game against Nottingham Forest when you and I both wanted to see a bit more from him. Unfortunately, we didn't see that often enough, did we?
No, we didn't, and that's been the story, really, of his second half of his Liverpool career ever since the injury, obviously, against Roma. And it's been tough, man. I do have some sympathy for him because, like you said earlier, he went on that boss run. He was sort of integral to our Champions League run for a while. The Man City game, as you rightly referenced, he was unbelievable. And in a weird sense, we've never actually replaced that Oxlade-Chamberlain. We never had someone from midfield who can go on them driving runs and make something happen and score from distance. We just haven't had that ever since, and I think Klopp has been sort of clinging on to the Ox, hoping he'll get back there, but all the time it's just constant problems after problems with him. And like I say, when that happens to someone who clearly had a lot of talent and clearly had a role to play in this Liverpool side, I do have some sympathy towards him, but at the same time it's probably gone on a little bit too long for me. You both mentioned the loyalty that Klopp's shown in there. For me, last summer was probably the time where Barry probably should have cut ties with him, because it felt...
he fit though? That was the thing that in my head...
Well, he was at one point.
But then he get injured halfway through the pre-season, doesn't he?
Yeah. Klopp, before that reference, he said, we've got this type of midfielder, that type of midfielder, and so on and so on. And Oxlade-Chamberlain was in that mix. And then literally almost as he stopped finishing that sentence, Ox was injured.
He was injured,
and it's like, that is kind of the story of how it's been for the Ox ever since that bad one. But the bad one was so bad that it's kind of caused all these problems ever since. He's always been chasing his fitness in a way ever since that happened. So I do feel sorry for him in a way. He has played a part on this journey that we've been on, so credit to him for that. He's never really spoken out against anybody, so he has sort of kept his case in that sense. But like I say, unfortunately, I think for both parties, a move probably should have come before this.
Yeah, I think it should look at his medals in years to come with pride, because he has contributed. You're quite right, Dan. Just to close on that, my summary, and I'll get you guys whether you agree or not. I think when we changed our tactics and we recognised we could play with a really high line using the pace of the back four and VAR to help us, we shut down a lot of that space in midfield where Ox would have wanted to pick up the ball and drive into, and we'll get onto it. But I think that also affected Naby Keïta as well. Would you say that's a fair assumption, Errol?
I feel like he's half and half, because he can drive, but Naby, he's also got the genie and the Thiago ability of being able to be really that ball retention and hold on to the ball and drop a shoulder. He's got that skill set for me as well, whereas Ox is more explosive and straight line running. So I agree, but then I would also say that there's probably an extra level or two where Naby's intelligence could have allowed him to operate in that space a little bit better.
We'll get on to Naby in a sec. Thoughts on the high line and the space, suppressing the space, hurt Ox a little bit, Dan?
Yeah, 100%. And I think for that reason, when we have seen Ox, it has kind of been very much in fits and starts, and he's never really grabbed any opportunity whatsoever. You mentioned the Nottingham Forest game earlier. That was a really frustrating outing from him, but unfortunately we've seen too many of them. And the worst part about that outing for me was he didn't influence the game whatsoever. And then when he did get taken off, he looked as if to say, why me? And I thought, come on, mate. Like, there's a reason why it's you. But credit to him, I must say, on the flip side of all of this, like, we've never truly had a system that suited him since he got injured. Whether Klopp did that because he didn't have the Ox anymore and he felt like he needed to change things, we'll probably never know. But when Ox has come in, when Mohamed Salah was at AFCON, for instance, he did a good job on the right-hand side of that, and that's not really his position. So we do have to cut him some slack. But unfortunately, like I say, for him, it's never truly worked ever since his injury, and that clearly wasn't his fault. So we had a couple of super chats as well.
First super chat there from when it gets to it,
Liam Bento, says, you lads recovered, or you still feeling a little bit rough? I think we was the sober ones, weren't we?
Well, I'm fully sober, I don't drink at all.
I drove. So
look at it, we are fully recovered.
We're all sober.
I want to say Michael McGuinness as well, member chat earlier on, said it was a boss night last night, and it was.
Josh Thompson, I'm already feeling emotional, not even kicked off today. Hopefully 3 points and Bobby goal today. Much love, lads. Right, the second guy's leaving today, and we'll keep this short and sweet because we need time to talk about Bobby, is Naby Keïta, and I'm going to summarise my feelings on it, and you jump on the back of it, and then we'll move on to Milner. Is that for £57 million, I expected an awful lot more. I feel I have every right to be frustrated by his output and what we've seen from him. Injuries are unfortunate. Some of them he could have helped himself a little bit, I think. But I never saw the fire in his belly. I never saw a guy that wanted to force his way into a Liverpool side and say, I'm your man. And the best example of my frustration would be quarter-final away in Real Madrid's academy ground. He got taken off before half-time because he just didn't read the script. That's my summary in Naby Keïta.
The less I say about Naby, the better.
Go on, Dan, finish it.
Yeah, do you know what, you're right, and you mentioned the price tag there, and that's obviously a factor, because when you sign someone for that amount of money, you are expecting a certain amount of return. Obviously, he comes in a year after we signed him, which also sort of built up the anticipation. We all got to watch him for a year in Bundesliga, see this tough tackling, sort of free-flowing, dynamic midfielder that could do the lot, and I think we all got excited by that. Hasn't happened. We might have seen it. And my biggest problem with Naby is obviously the injuries are sort of the overriding issue, much like Oxlade-Chamberlain. If anything, Naby's are more frustrating because he's never had that big injury that you can point to and go, well, there's his problem. And ever since that, he's had problems. Naby Keïta just constantly picked up different little niggles on the way, and that's really annoying. But for me, the biggest frustration with Naby is actually the fact that his fits and starts and his moments haven't been, you can't point towards a game and go, oh, he was boss that game. It's been like a half of football here and there. I don't think he's ever truly put like a run of good 90 minutes together, and you just can't do that. You just can't have that in your squad. And I think for me, like Ox in many ways, we were never likely to cut ties on that with Naby, because I think Jurgen Klopp adored him as a midfielder and what he offered. We've just never seen it for Liverpool. And yeah, I think you mentioned the word frustrating, and ultimately it will be frustrating. But again, a player, when you look back in years to come, who was part of an unbelievable footy team. So what can you do?
Yeah, we wish both of those two guys all the best for their future careers, wherever that may be.
100.
And then on to another difficult one for us to talk about because of the love we have for this guy, James Milner. 750 odd games in the Premier League, most of them in a Liverpool shirt. This guy is the consummate pro. This guy embodies everything that you should have from a professional footballer. Often the go-between between the players and the manager in terms of putting little fires out. I can't speak highly enough about this guy, and wherever he goes, obviously going to Brighton for a short-term contract. I really hope, and it's been mentioned in the chat a couple of times, I really hope there's an opportunity for him to come back and find his way into our coaching staff, because he embodies everything that these young men should look up to, everything these young men want to be. Your Harvey Elliott, your Curtis Jones, who've got their career in front of them, Errol. James Milner's the standard bearer for those guys.
No, I completely agree, mate. And the thing that I like about James Milner is, or not even, there are a lot of things that I like about James Milner, I'll be real, but what really stands out for me in terms of the man that he's become is when he's been brought into this Liverpool team, he'd already come with a winner's mentality.
Yeah.
Not a lot of the players that we had in and around our squad at that time had that mentality, had that belief. We had not long lost Gerrard, and he was like a real talisman for that, and being able to be kind of, you know, the driving force for the standards of the club. And James Milner replicated that without the pressures of having the ties to the city. So when you think of Gerrard sometimes used to wear that Liverpool shirt. It used to weigh heavy on him because he knew the standards, he knew the expectation, he knew what it meant to the people on the streets. 100%. Whereas James Milner was able to bring that same level of professionalism, that same level of desire, but he didn't have that necessarily weighing heavy on him. And I think that level of professionalism kind of just give off that vibe and that energy to the likes of Henderson. You've seen a new lease in his life. He had somebody else that he could really go to as an older statesman, be able to express not necessarily his frustrations, but express, you know, the what he wanted to, you know, the stamp what he wanted to leave on the club and how important it meant for him and how they could manage that together. And, you know, we'll talk about Bobby, but I think those two signings in particular, Bobby and Milner, in terms of what they was able to bring, it really did set the foundations for what this Liverpool side under Klopp would go on to do. And if you looked at it, you think the flair, the ability that Bobby brings, but then you also look at it and you think, actually, the professionalism, the standards and that consistency that Milner had embodied, especially those early couple of seasons, that has been the blueprint and the template and the foundation for everything good. They've been the spine almost, or no, I wouldn't even say they've been the spine, because your spine's always going to be Ali, Van Dijk, Fabinho, Salah, one of the talisman. They've been the DNA. I'd say that's how important they've been to what has actually then become the full Liverpool squad over the last 4 or 5 years. And James Milner, man, hats off to him. He's been an absolute servant to this football club, and definitely want him in the coaching setup in years to come.
Oh, very well put. Dan, your thoughts on James Milner?
No, absolutely. Servant's a really important word in all this. And I think I make you right, El. If you ask Jurgen Klopp sort of how integral James Milner's been to all our success, he'd put him right up there amongst the real key players. Standard. Not necessarily always on the pitch, but what he does off it, what he offers to the dressing room and so on and so on. You've got Jordan Henderson in the same bracket, of course, but I don't think you get the lead that Jordan Henderson is without James Milner's influence on him either. So, absolute, unbelievable professional. And we shouldn't forget his influence on the pitch as well, because it has been there. He scored some key goals for us in key moments. We all can think back about his goal line clearance against Bournemouth as well, which ends up winning us that game of football. So, unbelievable servant to the football club, unbelievable servant to football, quite frankly, let alone Liverpool. I'm with you guys. I really hope he comes back in years to come. And I think a lot of Reds wanted him to stay on this year and beyond. Not so much even in a playing capacity, but we all wanted him to see making that move. He's clearly not ready to make that move into coaching yet, and fair dues to him. He's clearly still very fit, wants to carry on playing. From a Liverpool perspective, he's played too many minutes over the past year, maybe year and a bit, because we just haven't had the midfielders, we've already spoken about Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita, to sort of play instead of him. So we've asked too much of him, and therefore he's sort of dipped in his performance. So yeah, right time for him to move on in terms of football, but as a person, I really hope he comes back.
And Liverpool's loss is Brighton's game. They don't realise what they're getting in terms of a model pro. It will change the way that Brighton look at things.
And it could be a little sweetener for what might come the other way come in the middle of the summer, so you never know.
So the big one, the final one, Roberto Firmino. Now, we've not kept this a secret. We're doing a piece on Roberto Firmino coming out very shortly, and Dan and I have been lucky enough to be involved in researching this and doing some work on it, and it kind of draws you a bit closer to the man as well as the player, and on a personal level, I'm gutted to be losing the player, but I'm also gutted to be losing the man. He is probably the archetypal player that Klopp could ever have wanted in his side. When Klopp joined the club, he said, "Thank you, you don't realise how good this player is, and I'll show you how good he is." Roberto Firmino has been the epicentre of everything good we've done, all the trophies we've won, winning everything, champions of everything, that slogan we all dined out on for a good while and still do from time to time. He's the man that's been the catalyst for all of that. And that was personified in the World Club Championship, where not only did he come off the bench and score against Monterrey to win the semi-final, he scores the winner in the final as well. That would have meant so much to him, because it's a big thing for Brazilians to win that competition, and it was Brazilian opposition. Losing Bobby today is a major blow. We've lost big players in the past, Dalglish, Rush, Souness, Gerrard, all these names. He deserves to be spoken about in that conversation, Errol.
100%, mate. And look, I've seen it on socials, but I'm going to reiterate it here, just for all of the cheap seats at the back, yeah? Klopp told certain people in this squad, you can leave Liverpool, you can go to Real Madrid, you can go to Barcelona, you can go to Bayern, and you can just become another player. Man like Bobby decided, fuck that shit, I'm going to stick around, I'm going to do my bit, I'm going to do my time, I'm going to give it all for this club, we're going to win it as a team, we're going to win everything, I'm going to put my money on it, and I'm going to put my playing ability on it. And we went and done it, and we delivered. He delivered for us, and he is getting a sending off today worthy of a Liverpool legend, let me tell you. And that's the difference. That's the difference that this Liverpool club does. So he's the example to any player around world football. When you watch and when you play for Liverpool, it means something more. There is more to this Liverpool team, especially if you are integral, or if you're at the heart of any of the success we do, because we will. Well, what's that word when you make somebody something forever, where you
immortal.
Yeah, we're going to immortalise you, and that's what Bobby Firmino is. He will be immortalised as a Liverpool legend from this day forth, and that's as much as I want to say on the matter until later, and then I can get emotional.
It's very fitting, before we go to a quick break, which we'll preface with a nice video on Bobby Dan, is to get you're holding something there to show the guys, and I want your thoughts on Bobby the man, the legend.
Oh yeah, I mean, to me, my favourite player of this past 7-8 years, Jurgen Klopp's era, and I said it earlier, he has defined this era. Everything that's been good about Liverpool over the past few years has come through Roberto Firmino in so many senses, not just what he brings on the pitch, but his character, his smile, his celebration. Absolutely adore everything about the man, and his footballing IQ is beyond what we've seen for a long time at Liverpool Football Club, quite frankly. And like I say, he does epitomise everything that I love about this football club, quite frankly. It's the joy in which he plays the game, he makes it fun. And yeah, we're going to miss him heavily, we really are, and like I say, we'll get emotional a little bit later, but as you referenced there, we are recording our Roberto Firmino documentary as we speak. I was lucky enough to go to Hoffenheim recently as well, speak to an ex-teammate of his, and like you say, Steve, when you meet people who knew him really well, some people still talk about him as family, some people still speak to him every day now as well, you really get a little insight into what the person's like. You've got a sense from watching him from afar, but when you speak to people who know him far better than we ever will, you really hits home just how brilliant a person he is. So yeah, the documentary is going to be special. We're going to give you a little trailer of it in just a second, but I also need to tell you that over on Redmen merch right now, because it is the special day / weekend, we are giving you 20% off all our Roberto Firmino merch on redmenmerch.com, so head over there and get yourself a bargain. This is the official Bobby Doc t-shirt. It is a belter. Get involved.
And let us know in the chat. Are we doing that in this chat or in the next chat? So we save it the favourite Bobby goal. Are we going to?
We'll do that during the game.
Can we do that during the? Aye, save it. Start thinking. Go watch some YouTube highlights and come back to us with your favourite Bobby goal.
Don't watch this. Don't go to watch this.
Well, obviously, after you've watched this, you've got a break. But you've got time. I want to know. We will want to know later on today your favourite Bobby goal, because I've got 3 in my mind. Do you get me? So I need you to rate them.
We'll get those in due course. Right, we're going to close this section now. A little preview, a little snippets of what's to come. We'll talk much more about Bobby in the ensuing days and weeks, I am sure. We'll be back very shortly with the team news reaction.
As a friend, as a character, in the locker room, often on the pitch, we missed him a lot, and especially me, because we had a amazing relationship.
Aber natürlich war ich stolz danach. Also gleichzeitig war traurig, gleichzeitig war ich auch stolz, weil das war für ihn eine Belohnung für seine Arbeit, für seine Leistung, was er hier die 4 Jahre geleistet hat. Und wir waren alle hier stolz, ich mit meiner Familie auch. Wir waren sehr, sehr stolz, dass der nach Liverpool, so ein großer Verein, dass der das geschafft hat, dahin zu kommen. Und wir waren sicher, dass der dort sehr viel Erfolg haben würde, und so ist auch gekommen.
Ich finde, es ist immer eine Riesenchance und, für den Spieler, und man freut sich einfach, weil von Hoffenheim zu Liverpool, das ist schon geil, und er hat sich das verdient. Was er sich da auch aufgebaut hat in Liverpool ist großartig, und ja, wir haben uns alle einfach nur für ihn gefreut, und umso schöner, dass er dort so lange eine schöne Zeit hatte.
Yeah, I mean, on one side you are sad, on the other side you are happy, because I think you shouldn't be. At this time, I was not sad that it was over. I was actually happy that it happened and that I could share the locker room with him. And the rest is, you know the story.
There's something that the cop wants you to know. The best in the world is made by